Hi guys, I'm delighted to be here today. We've got the fantastic Guy from Ebsta, a huge business in our industry, making some really impressive moves. Guy, welcome.
Robbie, thanks for having me. Big fan of the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, Guy, let's just kick straight into it. Why don't we just hear a little bit about you, how you got going on this business, and the mission you're on.
Okay, well, as you say, I'm the CEO and founder of a business called Ebsta. We're a London-based business. We pride ourselves as an AI-first revenue platform. And so, what does that actually mean? We help businesses increase the number of reps that are hitting quota. How do we do that? Well, a lot of the challenges we see in the market is that people have spent lots of money on lots of technology, and still 4 out of 5 sales reps are missing quota. And the reason for that is that the tools that we've got are maybe allowing us to go a little bit faster, but they're not making us any better. So our focus is really trying to understand what the top performers in the organization have done historically at every stage of the sales process, and use that information to then prompt the B and C players within the business as to what they should be doing at every stage. And we guarantee that our customers can double the number of reps hitting quota within the first 6 months. Wow. So that's what we do.
That's a pretty impressive statement, Guy. That's amazing. So am I bold enough to say this all revolves around sales intelligence and how you're basically helping them enhance the journey for the client? And can you just talk us through how this actually plays out?
Yeah, so there's lots of tools out there that can help you with your forecast or help you inspect your pipeline. The problem is that building a set of dashboards doesn't necessarily move the business any further forward. So if you want to affect change, the first thing you need to do is look at the raw data that you're basing your business on. And the biggest problem most organizations have is that when they're trying to build out insights, the data those insights are based on is sourced from an incomplete, out-of-date CRM that was populated by sales reps who have no motivation to do that in a correct fashion. So the first thing we do for our customers is our very first product that we took to market is what we call relationship intelligence. So nothing to do with revenue, not about forecasting, but actually more about trying to understand all the relationships a business has, and then fixing all of the dirty data in CRM. So before we get into delivering value to the business around how they can achieve more quota attainment, the first boring thing we need to do is fix all that historical data associated to every deal that closed, won, and lost in the past. Now, once we fix that historical data, once we know, you can imagine how many deals have people got in their CRM where they've maybe got one contact associated and a couple of emails maybe exchanged, and that's all that's been recorded. When it turns out that the buying committee was 9 stakeholders, and different personas had different levels of engagement to achieve a certain outcome. So the whole premise behind our business is that, and we only service B2B companies. So we have just over 400 companies now using Ebsta, and the whole premise is that relationships drive revenue. So once we understand what relationships the businesses need to achieve a certain outcome and how much engagement is required with each one of those stakeholders at every stage of the sales process, now we're at the races. Now we can understand what we want people to do as they move forward. So if you might be selling lots of different products to lots of different verticals, lots of different geographies, but as you start looking at the data historically, you'll start to see patterns as to which personas we should be engaging with at each stage of the sales cycle, how much engagement is required to achieve a certain outcome, how much momentum we'd expect to see. So for example, we do a lot of work around things like pipeline analytics. How many days do we need to spend in stage before we think this deal is likely to be stalling and likely to eventually close lost? So knowing how many days you won't want to stay in stage is a really good data point to kind of lean into.
Okay, that's it sounds very scientific as well. It's incredible you guys have managed to get your heads around that. Really, I think it's been a 100 year problem for most businesses, particularly in the B2B space. That's incredible.
And it's an exciting time, right? We're right at the moment where all the data is now available to us, and AI is finally here. So one of the big mistakes we make with salespeople is they've got a very small capacity for learning. Most of us do, right? And the challenge we have is we use that small capacity for learning to teach them how to do things that the AI can do better than they can. Yeah. So things like logging their activity, creating contacts, keeping Salesforce clean and up to date, but even things like qualification methodologies like MEDDIC or BANT or MEDPIC getting that information from your discovery call into Salesforce in a consistent format, the AI can do that a whole lot better than the reps can. So allowing the AI to do the stuff that they're good at, and then using the limited capacity for learning for salespeople to train them and teach them on how to deal with things like objection handling, how to deal with discovering what the ROI that the solution is that you're providing that customer is likely to be for that business, and really helping them build a business case. So what we see consistently are the sales team, the delta between those top performers and everybody else is getting wider and wider. And the top performers are now in a position where they're almost able to hold the business to ransom, because just 17% of reps now generate 81% of our revenue. Okay, it's insane, right? So what we need to do is understand what are those top performers doing differently, and most of it comes down to the way they approach the customer. So for example, top performers will close 30% of their opportunities off as lost at the discovery stage. Now, in some organizations, people are chastised for not having enough pipeline. And the problem there is that actually you might be a phenomenal rep that only needs 1.5 coverage to hit quota, while I might need 6 or 7x to hit quota, because all I'm doing is getting people on the phone and showing them how the buttons work, while you're becoming this expert advisor to the customer, helping them understand why they should prioritize this project over everything else because it's a bigger ROI. Right, and it's very different conversations we're having, and so when I pick up the phone and try and engage with the customer a second time, they don't want to take my call because they know I'm just going to try and close them or show them how some more buttons work. While when you pick up the phone to the customer, suddenly they want to engage with you because that thing that you help them solve, they have more questions about how it works and how they can really get the most value out of it. So suddenly your momentum and engagement with that customer skyrockets, and they want to spend more time with you. So we know that relationships drive revenue, and we've come up with an algorithm to measure momentum or engagement with each of those relationships.
That's fantastic. I mean, we've got a phrase that whilst it's B2B, it's P2P, it's person to person. And obviously, our business revolves around generating qualified sales appointments, and there's good ways to do that and very bad ways to do that. And unfortunately, a lot of the market does the very bad way, which then interrupts quality through mid-funnel and pipeline, like you guys focus on. So it is fascinating, and one of the key things that we get asked a lot is around, okay, how do I maximize our CRM? And we quite regularly say to people, well, there's lots of automations. Salesforce and HubSpot do very similar things. They're excellent as platforms. However, what are you doing with the people that sit on the CRM, and how are they operating? Are they being efficient? So it sounds like you guys have cracked it from there.
Well, if you think about how salespeople use LinkedIn, okay, if you walk around a sales desk, you'll find most of them have got LinkedIn open up on their screen, and they all love it and they use it, and most of them actually haven't even been trained on how to use it. So why do they love spending time in that environment? Because it represents knowledge they can leech from, they can take advantage of. Okay, it helps them do their job faster. Okay, and if we can make the CRM the same experience by taking away all the admin burden, and suddenly the CRM becomes this knowledge base of content that's actually not available on the public internet. Now, all of a sudden, they want to spend more time in the CRM as well. And actually, the AI is so much better at logging activity, creating contacts, keeping the contacts up to date, and telling us who in the organization holds that relationship, and prompting the reps as to what they should be doing next. So we've built a whole AI algorithm that will prompt the reps as they're going through the stages. It will pre-write the emails for them off the back of every discovery call they have. And it works just as well for success as well. So, while you might not be asking discovery questions in a QBR, you're still going to be asking customers a specific predefined set of questions that you're looking to clarify. What objections are they having? What friction is there in the process? So again, let the AI do what it's good at, which is extracting that information, making it available in the system of record, taking away the heavy lifting in kind of follow-up actions, getting that all automated for the company. And then the salespeople and the customer success teams are uniquely placed to use their time to actually build those closer relationships with their customers and partners.
100%. So how does this work then, Guy? Is it integrations? Is it a platform in itself? I mean, I'm asking a question I know the answer to, but you're going to articulate it much better than I will.
So within 7 days of a customer connecting to our platform, we've gone through all of their historical email traffic and calendar events for the last 1 or 2 years. And we found all the missing relationships they didn't know they had in sales, and we've synced all that up to Salesforce. So now, and we've also gone back to every opportunity closed, won, and lost, and fixed all of the activity and the contacts that are associated to those deals. So within 7 days, the data's now clean, and you've now got an AI engine keeping Salesforce up to date every 5 minutes. and relationship engagement scores go up and down every day, and all of that can flush through to existing reports you've already got in place. So no change management for the reps, apart from the fact that they no longer have to do any admin.
Cool.
Now, once we've done that, within 7 days of that, we will then deliver our customer a breakdown of everything that's gone on, all the benchmarking, trying to understand what works and what doesn't across the organization for the last 4 quarters. So we build the leaderboards of the sales team, help them understand, number of all the challenges they're experiencing. So I can think of some of the obvious ones are things like funnel progression. So funnel analytics is a really interesting one, right? So a real easy fix that people can do themselves is look at things like, are we skipping stages through our sales process? Do we have real proper gates and triggers at every stage of the sales cycle that we only go into the next stage when these triggers have been accepted? Yeah. And are the stages correct? And because if you've got the same stages for an SMB deal and an enterprise deal, the chances are neither of them are probably correct. So understand what your stage progressions look like. Understand the number of days you've spent in stage historically, or each rep has spent in stage historically when they win versus when they lose. We know momentum has a big impact on win rates. A great stat from the report we just did, I don't know if you've seen it, but we analysed 4.2 million opportunities recently, $54 billion worth of pipeline. And for the very first time, we also analysed 1 million hours of sales calls, really looking at all the signals that have influenced revenue. And some fascinating insights came out of it. So, for example, if you don't book your next meeting within 7 days of the last one, if you're in an active sales process, win rates drop by 65%.
Wow. Okay.
So, and understanding your entire buying committee is really important. If there are 9 stakeholders you really need to get engaged in the sales cycle, if you only engage with 3, the chances are your competitors are engaging with the other 6. Yeah. So knowing who your buying committee is and getting the more senior stakeholders involved earlier in the sales process is really important. And focusing on that ROI question much, much earlier on in the sales process. So even in that discovery phase, have that honest conversation with the customer. I'm sure you've got 7 other projects on right now. You're probably under-resourced. You've probably not even got a budget defined for this particular thing that I'm doing. But if we could solve this problem for you, what impact would it have? Is it really a higher priority than the other 7 things that you've got on? And if not, let's close it off as lost and we can move on to the next thing. But if it does, if I can prove this to you, then who else needs to be involved in that decision-making process? And getting them involved before you're presenting back the solution gives them an opportunity to give you their objections before you kind of come back with a final solution.
No, it's fantastic. So, I mean, there is I think it often gets forgot the art of selling, shall we say, which is what it's all about, right? It's getting from yes, we want to talk, down to an agreement signed, basically, and starting to do some business together. It is very grey, isn't it? And it's very hard to rationalize it. I mean, obviously, once you've closed the deal and you're delivering service, that's a bit more binary, right? You know what you've got to do. You know what the goalposts are, so to speak. But I think that art of the grey is always quite hard. And I know you mentioned the old 80-20 rule in terms of 80% of revenue comes from the top 20% performers. Very true in every organization, I would say. But the key is it tends to be those ones that have mastered the grey, i.e., the relationship piece, building the rapport with all of the stakeholders, knowing the dog's name or knowing how the kid's playing football, all those sorts of things, which then edges it along to be able to have the open conversations around, okay, where are we actually with this, guys? What priorities are we in? So you can actually start mapping out when deals will close and if they won't. Because I don't know about you, Guy, but I see it a lot where it's very hard for a salesperson to let go of a deal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely, especially the B and C players. They don't want to let go of the pipeline, and actually some of the time it's our fault as leaders because we kind of beat people up if they haven't got enough coverage. But actually, not all reps are equal, right? And so before you beat up your sales rep because they haven't got enough coverage, what coverage do they need to hit quota? Because you've got the data. The system will tell you how much coverage each rep needs to hit quota, but the numbers might be wildly different. So, again, try and understand what good looks like for each of those salespeople and help encourage them to win more by showing them how to do that. Look, as I say, I agree with you. We know that relationships drive revenue, but how are we going to measure that? How do we measure the momentum or the relationships that we have? And what's really fascinating is we have a heat graph that we use when we're looking to measure momentum or engagement with different stakeholders. And consistently, the top performers have much deeper, much more engagement with all of the buying committee than the B and C players. And so you go, well, why is that? Is it because the B and C players are lazy? They're not bothering to pick up the phone. They won't engage with the customer. And the answer is none of the above. The reason that we're not getting that engagement is because the customer doesn't want to talk to us.
Yeah.
Because we've come across as an annoying salesperson, right? And so, and actually, when the B and C players do achieve that high level of engagement, their win rates are remarkably similar to the A level, the A stars. Okay, so they can still do it, but we just need to stop spending our time and energy training them on stuff that the AI can do better than they can, and focus our energies on teaching them how to deal with objections, teaching them how to come across as an expert advisor, how to, the top performers, they understand that secret sauce. If you've got 1 in 5 reps hitting quota, you have product market fit. Okay. Now your challenge is it's not more leads at the top of the funnel. It's not about churning the sales team that you've got so that you can hire a load more in on the off chance that they'll all be A stars. It's about investing in those B and C players and showing them what to do at every stage of that sales process, helping them to win more. And there's really easy ways of gamifying that now. With AI in place, we can take away all of that admin burden. We know with certainty that the data that our insights are based on is now consistent because it's being maintained by a machine, not by a human. And now those insights can really help us drive the right behaviors for the users on the ground. And we can the impact you can have on those B and C players is almost immediate. And the reason for that is because even though they're B and C players, because they're in sales, they still want to win.
Yeah.
And so all we need to do is show them how, right? And so once you show them the secret sauce, you show them how to win at every stage of the sales cycle, and you keep prompting them using the AI to go, we'd expect you to have this much engagement with the CFO by this stage, or you haven't booked the next meeting in, or here's the follow-up email that summarizes the actions and the objections that were raised. Allowing the AI to prompt the reps and help them to get to where they're going, we guarantee we can double the number of reps hitting quota within the first 6 months.
Amazing. So, Guy, I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball into the conversation here, but I think it's really important to anybody listening to this right now, because they're going to be listening to it inherently because they're interested in generating new business fundamentally, and that's what we both do in our respective businesses. Obviously, we're at the top of the funnel generating qualified sales appointments and then getting that into mid-funnel and letting the sales teams run with it. And obviously, you guys are welcoming in, or your software is helping these guys welcome this in and turn it into revenue, essentially. So in your opinion, and this is really important because it's a real problem in for most businesses, is the quality of handoff of a new business opportunity. So a lead, let's say it could be from marketing to sales, it could be from an outsourced agency into sales, it could be a slightly more convoluted journey, it could be a 360 salesperson. Either way, okay, what marks a quality lead into a mid funnel for you, and what sort of characteristics should people be looking out for?
Well, if we're talking about top of the funnel, first of all, it's worth understanding that the top performers are twice as likely to self-source their own opportunities. And so they're in market building relationships with all sorts of personas that are related to their market that they may not sell to for the next 12 months. But they're building those relationships. And again, bear in mind that when we go into a customer, we analyze all the relationships a business has, and each individual rep's historical mailboxes tell us how many relationships they have. And consistently, the top performers are also the ones with the most relationships, not just in the sales process, but just in the market as well. Mm-hmm. But when we think about, then we start thinking about the source of different leads and where they've come from. And so, for example, at the moment, we're seeing the impact of lead sourced through partners, for example, are much higher, give us a much higher conversion rate, because the partner is, again, it's perceived as an expert, and they're a trusted advisor. And of course, if they're recommending you, the chances are that that they trust you. And then when you leave the room, the partner is there singing your praises in the background. So we've seen that have a big impact on win rates. Things like events, we're seeing having the lowest level of conversion rates we've ever seen before. Okay. And I think that's actually true with not just events, but leads in general. We're seeing, if you go back a year, there was a real problem with pipeline creation. Yeah. Then what we've seen is a massive increase in pipeline creation, but a massive decrease in conversion rates. So a massive increase in slippage from deals slipping through the process. So we're now seeing nearly 50% of deals are slipping past their anticipated close date.
Okay.
And when deals start to slip, then their win rates drop dramatically. Okay. And so what we've done is we've looked at this pipeline coming in and gone, oh, thank goodness, we've had a bad quarter, but it's okay because we've got all this pipe being generated. But then actually it doesn't convert through to new business.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're living now in a world where there's more noise than ever before. There's more and more noise, and getting really diligent about and ruthless about the way we qualify those opportunities is absolutely key.
Yeah.
And again, when we look at the why the deals are closed lost, a lot of the reasons deals are closed lost kind of eventually in the sales cycle is because they weren't qualified correctly in the first place. And in reality, they probably weren't actually in a sales cycle from their perspective. Okay, so getting ruthless about the way we qualify these opportunities is absolutely key. And then finally, engaging with the right personas. Okay, just because someone filled in a form as a manager, that doesn't mean that you should invest a load of time in trying to educate them and get them on board as your champion. Okay, if we know that ultimately the decision makers are going to be and the influencers are all going to be the C levels or the VPs. So knowing the buying personas and the buying committee that are important to your sales process is vital. And making sure that you are, especially at the early stage when you're going through that discovery phase, making sure you're in front of the right people and asking the difficult questions about who else needs to be involved in this process. Because, for example, I guarantee almost every sales process now has some level of involvement from the VP of Finance or the CFO.
Yep.
Okay, but most of our salespeople don't ask that question, or they're almost a little bit scared of the CFO. But guess what? If you can get the CFO to engage with you before you present back the solution, you are much more likely to have them on board, and they want the same ROI as everybody else.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can get them engaged earlier in the sales cycle, you're much more likely to win. And again, the top performers will not actively engage with those managers. They will only engage with the personas they know are going to lead them to business. So being more ruthless in the qualification, being more ruthless in which personas you're willing to engage with, especially if you've got volume of leads, theoretical leads coming through, is absolutely vital.
Yeah, we always take the approach quality over volume, always. Particularly with the controllable channels. Obviously, there's when you've got inbound, it's slightly less controllable in terms of what's coming in, but you can qualify from there onwards. So yeah, it's all about quality because, as you say, all of this revolves around return on investment. That's all that really matters when it comes to the sales process and investment into sales process. So yeah, it's fantastic insight. So I suppose that there's two things I'd like to ask Guy. The first thing is quite a simple question, and it's the classic. Somebody's early on their journey. We've got a sales or potentially a marketing professional who's operating in our space. They're early on in their journey, or their business hasn't got any of the tools that you and I are familiar with. What would be your number one tip, apart from engaging with you guys, of course? But where would somebody start? Their CRM's a mess. They haven't really got a control on everything. What's the number one thing to start on?
Okay, well, again, it depends on how big the sales team is and what they aspire to do. Okay, because if you're not using your CRM, then why are you paying for it? Get rid of it. Either invest in it and make it the heart of the business and the system of record, or don't. But this halfway house of, well, we're going to spend money on it, but it's going to add no value and it's just going to be an admin burden around our necks, just doesn't serve anyone. So, we would encourage you to think about we would encourage you to think about, how do you fix that data in the system of record? We're not the only player in the park that does some of this stuff, but what we call this relationship intelligence kind of underpins everything that we do. And now we see it as a great lead gen for us, right? So we don't charge very much money for that, and it's not a big lift to kind of fix the historical data and put this AI in place to kind of keep CRM up to date over time. So we see, I wouldn't say it's a lost leader, but we try and get it out there to as many companies as we can, because everyone has the same problem with CRM data. But I also recognize it's not everyone's biggest priority. So we can certainly help on that side of things. The most important thing is thinking about really understanding what works within your organization. So if you're a very small team, you might just be able to sit around a table and work through all the different stages of your sales cycle and try and understand, who are the stakeholders that are helping us to win more. who is the real buying committee? How much engagement do we really need in an ideal world at each stage of that sales cycle? And getting very, very ruthless about those stage progression gates. Okay, don't let an opportunity bleed in from one stage to the next until it's achieved a certain amount of criteria. Don't invest in a free trial if you haven't got clarity if they've got a budget or not, or if they can come up with a budget if you solve the problem or give them a return. Don't invest more time with the finance team or the legal team or the solution engineers if we don't know who the whole buying committee is. And so the journey has to. There are two players in that journey, and both players' times are valuable. So especially in a world where we've got more noise than ever, if the quicker you can close a lead off as lost, the quicker you can work on the next one that might help you win.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And again, I think that comes back to the age-old problem of a salesperson or a mediocre salesperson not willing to let go of something. They need to know when to say that's not happening and be able to do it in a systematic way, which is really what you're pointing everybody to, which is fantastic.
That's what, as leaders, that's what we're here to help our sales team do. And again, what's amazing is when you turn it into pictures and show them, look, historically, when we get past 22 days in this stage, we always lose the deal. So, it's 23 days. So if you really want to keep it, tell me why this one's going to be different to all of the others that we've gone through in the past. But if you can't, let's close it off as lost, and we'll move on to something more productive.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, guys. So we're having this conversation in a moment in time in our industry. As you say, AI is here. It feels like you guys are well ahead of the bell curve on this one, but it's here, right? Everybody's aware of it and kind of marveling at the wonders of what's possible, probably scratching their heads on how to properly implement and procrastinating it in most cases. But what's the future here? Where is this heading? Maybe you can give us a bit of a sneak peek of where you're going as a business, because that will be a good indicator of what's important for mid-funnel. Just talk us through the next couple of years and your views and predictions.
So we're moving to becoming more of an AI-guided selling platform. So really more looking at all of these signals and helping the sales rep in real time. So you're going to see Ebsta coming to market not just with AI tools that take things like the call recordings and pre-populate things like Medic in Salesforce and give the reps a kind of a thumbs up, or a score. Congratulations, you got 70 out of 100 on your qualification. Great. Next week I'm going to get 75. And trying to encourage people to kind of get better through AI and gamification. But the AI can actually follow the sales rep now wherever they go. So if they're in their inbox and they start typing an email to the person they just had a meeting with, the AI will pre-populate, here's a summary of everything you discussed on the call. Here are the next actions agreed. You might want to put an eye over it, but it will do the heavy lifting for you. Or if you visit a LinkedIn profile, it might say, well, this person looks like this type of persona. This type of message might help you get the right outcome if you reach out to this individual. So the AI will start following you around as wherever you go and understand where you are in the sales cycle, or for existing customer, where you are at this stage. And the AI will help the salesperson and continue to prompt them as to what they should be doing next. Now, the way this stuff works, it's all about having good, consistent, underlying data in the first place. And the gap between us and our peers is that we've really focused a lot of energy on fixing that historical data piece first, because all of the cool things you can do around insights and lovely graphics and forecast accuracy and all these other things are all great, but they all still rely on that underlying principle around that quality and consistency of data.
Yeah, it's a foundation, isn't it? Fundamentally, it's a foundation. So, okay, cool. And I suppose I have to ask the question, and this is the feedback and the insights that are coming from the wonderful graphs and the bringing it to life and actually getting people's attention on what's important. How do you think that will impact the methods of lead generation? Because that's obviously what a lot of people listen to us on. How do you think that's going to impact? Obviously, there's going to be lots of insights in terms of verticals that are working, stakeholders that are making decisions, etc. But maybe you can give us a bit of a deeper view on where you think that might impact.
It's an interesting question. I think there'll be a backlash a little bit. We've all kind of got numb to the gazillion emails in our inbox trying to sell to us. Okay, most of us are numb these days to the adverts as well. So I think. From my perspective, I think I still believe that relationships are a cornerstone to every sales cycle, irrelevant of the technology around us. And I will say this exclusively in B2B, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're trying to sell me a pair of trainers or sneakers for our American watchers and listeners, you can send me an email with a discount code. I'll click on it and and buy whatever you're trying to sell me. But in B2B sales, there is an element of trust, and one of the challenges we have at Ebsta is that we're going up against businesses that have spent billions, literally billions of dollars on their own brands. One of our big competitors advertised at the Super Bowl,
Yeah. Yeah.
and how do we compete with that? And that's a real challenge for us, and something that we're thinking a lot about, because brand trust is a big part of it, and our customers or potential customers are going to their RevOps consultants, and they're asking them to implement a competitor of Ebsta without even asking whether Ebsta might could help them.
Yes.
So that's a challenge for us. And so how do we become another trusted brand? And that's why we do a lot of work around these insights and so on. So for me, it's still going to be the same thing, which is how do we build those relationships? How do we get people want independent, trusted advisors to tell them more and more which direction to go in, especially as I read a really interesting piece about reviews, and there was kind of a moment just before AI where reviews were as honest as they were ever going to get. And then of course AI's come in, and now can you trust any review on any web page, right? Because it's probably AI generated. So and I think that lack of trust in kind of generic content is going to cause some challenges for a number of brands, and we just need to invest more in brand trust, relationships, partners. Are going to become more and more the route to market. And of course, people want to go through more and more of the sales process themselves before they speak to somebody, more often than not. So making more of your demo environment available online, giving people a sandbox they can kind of play with at their own discretion, and trying to add value. With all of these things, why did we produce the B2B benchmark report with Pavilion? Because it was a way of us giving back. It was a way of us giving some people, clarity around what's working and what's not at every stage of the sales cycle, without asking for anything back. And I think once you give, if you give first, you'll find, you're then in a position to receive as well. And that's really how I think marketing and top of the funnel will evolve as we move forward.
Fantastic. Well, Guy, thank you for your time. Much appreciated. I know we've only just literally touched the very top tip of the iceberg with all of this in the short time we've had together today. But thank you for your time. Maybe if you could just let us know where we can find you and your team, and then obviously people from here can go and explore and make sure they check out the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you mention the podcast, I'll definitely accept the invite. And I think at the top of my LinkedIn and at the website, you'll be able to download the report for free if you want to download the content. If you want a free trial of Ebsta, come to ebsta.com and put your hand up, and I'm sure one of my team will jump on the opportunity to tell you more about what we're doing.
Thanks, Guy. I actually went through the process with one of your team after a chat that you and I had, and I can tell everybody listening now, it's you're not filling in a lead capture form and getting bombarded. It's a very pleasant experience with the Ebsta team. So there's a bit of feedback for you guys. It's been excellent so far, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for having me, and looking forward to watching more of the podcast.
Cheers, Guy.
Take care.
Hey guys, really hope you found today's podcast interesting and full of business-to-business sales and marketing advice. If you like what you hear, please head over to our LinkedIn page for more free content. And, of course, feel free to connect with me, Robbie McGregor, for the latest news, advice, or even a quick friendly chat.